And still on Matters Education today on set, we are talking about the girl child and education access for the girl child. We know how it is, especially in the African context, and access to education for the girl child has been a conversation years on end. Today on set, I am having Viola Kaveza and Kungu from CFK Africa and Valerie Amunga on set. And to just start us immediately now, Valerie Amunga, what's your story?
I'm Valerie Amunga. I'm a teen mom. I got pregnant in 2016, gave birth in 2016. 2017, I went back to school. I finished high school in 2019, 2019. Because of Corona, 2020, I sat. 2021, I sat for my KCSE. I managed to got my grades. I went to do my college. I'm now doing nursing care.
Nursing care.
Yeah.
Just before we get to where you are right now, which is a good thing, immediately you got pregnant. How did your family take that?
Oh, it was a turn off. They didn't expect it because I'm the first daughter. They saw a potential in me. So it was like a disappointment to them. Yeah.
So, let me just come to your twin sister, Viola.
Yes.
When she got pregnant, what did mom and dad tell you?
Well, I remember I was also under pressure because my mom thought that I could also get pregnant because we are living in the same house, we are going to the same school, we hang out with the same friends. So it was a bit like hata pia utapata mimba kama sister yako. So pia mimi, it was like I'm also on the bad side of it. Yeah.
And Anne,
Yes.
you deal with these cases on a daily basis. What is your push in ensuring that cases like Valerie's get addressed and they get the same opportunity to go back to school and have a future?
So as an organization, CFK Africa, we work primarily in informal settlements. Currently 25 of the 1,400 documented informal settlements. Teen pregnancy is actually quite a challenge in Kenya. We have basically 1 in every 5 girls is pregnant in Kenya currently. And by and large, they tend to drop out of school. This is because either the household is no longer willing to support the child that will be born plus the girl. Sometimes also the school environment is not supportive. So it's either that there's a lot of stigma or the school will just outright kick the girl out of the school. And also just issues of pressure from society. As you said, teen pregnancy is quite a lot, comes with a lot of embarrassment, even as Valerie and Viola has mentioned. And you can imagine you have to deal with it at the household and also within the community. So as an organization, our role really is either to prevent. I would say that's the primary focus. We try to prevent, but for what we cannot prevent, we try to intervene and stand with these girls. So how we do that is basically mostly supporting the core services that are required at that stage. Number one, when she's pregnant, the primary service that we focus on first is healthcare. So how do we ensure that she and the baby are able to go through their pregnancy safely up until to the point of delivery? Now, when she delivers now, how do we ensure that as the baby is growing up healthy, she's also able to pursue basically her path, her life dreams, her choices? And this is education for us, because at that age, the primary goal for any child, because they are children, is education.
So here's a question for Valerie. You are a teenager, a child, and you have a child. So these are 2 babies in that household, plus your sister. And what are your friends saying at that point? What is, lack of a better word, at the father of the child? Where is he? Is he involved in this conversation? Is are your parents willing to sit down and have this conversation with you?
Yeah, they had, but I didn't have that courage to tell my parents first I was pregnant. So I went to my mom's best friend. I told my mom's best friend, you go tell mom I'm pregnant, because I didn't have, my mom is strict, very strict. So I went to tell my my aunt, I call her aunt, she went to talk to mom, and they call a meeting. We sat, and I was able to tell them, but it was a bit tricky. Yeah.
And the dad at that point is saying what?
Well, my dad, that man, yeah, he didn't want, for sure, he didn't want to hear that. He reached a point when he said I should move out, you know.
Oh.
Yeah. He didn't accept it.
And
But when times goes by, he accepted. He now loves the kid. They are best friends, by the way.
I mean, any parent with their grandchild
Yeah.
is always a win. But Viola,
Yes, yes.
as your sister is dealing with this, I mean, it's the same school. She has to drop out of school. I'm assuming you're in the same class, right? And now there's the stigma of when you're going to school, your friends utakuwa kama sister yako. What are your teachers telling you at that point? How are you dealing with the stresses? And because we can't assume that because you're a child you don't have the stresses, how are you dealing with everything that is happening around you? Who are you running to at that point to help you just cope and deal with what is happening?
Back then at school, I used to have a very good teacher. She was called Mrs. Gadhi. Wherever she is, may God bless you. She will always convince me and giving me courage. And it even reached a point where I invited her to my place to come and see Valerie when she was pregnant. At least I saw a pillar in her, even though my parents were a bit off, because it was a big shock to them, because they expected high of us. And since we were the firstborn in the family, at least we could set a pace for the other sibling for us. So it was a bit challenging, but I managed. Plus also the friends I had, some were a bit off, wengine walinitoroka because like, you also be like a sister. And actually I was the prefect at that time, the sanitation prefect. So at least the leadership helped me a lot, because I knew it a pass too at the end of the day. Plus I give my regards to my sister, because alichukulia very positive. And despite my father telling her you should drop out, you should abort the baby, she stood by her words, like, I'll keep this baby for sure. Yeah.
Now, Anne, here is you're dealing with such cases, right? Now, the conversation now has to come to you meeting with the parents, explaining that this is not the end of the road for their children at that point.
Sure.
And you also have to deal with an additional factor that now Valerie has to, she has to meet her daily needs, and the baby needs the needs as well. How do you approach that? How do you get to convince the parents that it is not the end of her future?
Yeah.
And how do we now convince her that it's not the end of the road for her?
So when we met Valerie, I believe she was introduced to us through her mom. So we usually have a lot of community level mobilization, where we create awareness of the kind of support we're going to offer. And then parents who are interested, teachers who have girls that are going through the same, they will basically recommend them to our office, and then we'll see how to intervene. So what we do basically is we offer two key services at that point. Number one, it's psychosocial support, so a lot of counseling. So we're going to provide counseling for the girl and counseling for the parents as well, so that we're able to get to a point of agreement, and we have a consensus that this has happened, but we must move on from it. So one of the ways in which now we are supporting that is we provide scholarships for the girl. As you said, there's a financial aspect to it. So yes, there's Valerie's needs, and then there's her baby's needs.
Yes.
So we have a consensus with the parents is, if we step in and cater for Valerie's school fee, then the money that you use to allocate to Valerie's school goes to the child. In addition to that also, we provide what we call household economic strengthening. This is intervention to support the household, increase the income, and if not increase income, then the much that they have, how can it be well utilized? Because sometimes it's issues of budgeting and just allocation that are the biggest issue. So that's the same thing that we went through with Valerie and the mom through the process, and we were able to see her go back to school and to finish her Form 4. And now the interesting thing is through the interaction of Valerie is how we also got to meet Viola through the project. And Viola, we also had an intervention that she was able to benefit from. Outside of now the scholarship, we support girls also after finishing high school. So what are the kind of skills and opportunities that are available for you to continue pursuing for your more sustainable livelihoods? So for Viola, for example, she participated in what we call our economic empowerment project, and where we introduce issues of ICT. Viola, I think she transitioned to Moringa.
Yeah, I transitioned to Moringa.
Yes.
Where I studied software development. And right now I'm at Pulse Live Kenya, doing their digital strategist. Yeah.
Big titles, I tell you. Big titles.
Yeah, big titles.
Now, Valerie.
Yeah.
You are set to go back to school at that particular point, yeah? How do you deal with the pressure of going back to school, being a teen mom, and how dealing with the baby? You have to make sure that your baby has been attended to, the baby has food. How do you deal with that pressure and deal with education, and who assisted you through all this?
My sister.
Yes.
I owe that lady a lot. She's the one who took care of my kid when I was in school. So I didn't have that much pressure in learning because I know she was like a mom to my daughter. So the pressure I had was maybe financial status, where sometimes we could not even get money to buy the child's needs. You understand? Yeah. So it was easy to manage because my sister was there. Unlike ningekuwa sina sister, ningekuwa sasa nimempeleka daycare, of which ingekuwa nzuri.
So I think I'm allowed to say that because your sister's the child had two moms.
Yeah.
Yes.
But no, Anne.
Yes.
They are out of high school, right? They are transitioning into college. How do you take their examples to preach these to other teenagers, just so they don't find themselves in a complicated situation like Valerie's?
Okay, so that intervention actually now falls our preventative measures, and we run what we like to call safe spaces. So safe spaces is basically where we take a group of 10 to 15 girls within the various villages we work in, and then we take them through various sessions around issues of health, education, rights. And how we do that is, for each group, there is what we have is called a mentor. So for the younger girls, they have someone who is a mentor. And basically girls like Valerie and Viola are the ones who step in as mentors, because, for example, Valerie, during her time, she also had a mentor. Because for those groups, most of them, we had girls that were not willing to go to school, or the parents would not really get bought into the idea of school. So such groups allows for that continuous support, so that you're not alone. So it creates that sense of sisterhood, and also similar to the parents. So if there's 2 or 3 girls, because I remember in Valerie's group there was only 2 girls that were going to school initially, of the 15. So you see, now these 2 would give pressure to the others, and you notice how they come from 2, then you had 4, we had 5, and eventually all 15 went back to school. So it's a gradual process. There's a lot of patience, there's a lot of understanding that needs to be there, because basically they're going through what is more or less the dual development challenge, because you're being a mom and you're still a girl as well. So there's a lot of confusion and a lot of awareness is needed in that phase. But definitely that group support is really essential. And similar to the parents, they have their own meetings, and you have a parent also who has a teen mom coming in, so that she offers the same real life experience. Because it's one thing for you to hear out there in the streets, things are happening, but it's another thing for you to really be within someone's presence and experience their true story. Yeah.
Viola.
Yes.
So here you're still a teenager, right? And you have your sister's baby, taking care of the baby. How do you have your life and also be there for your sister? How challenging is that? Because you're a teenager. We've all been there.
How will I put it? Okay, for me, I would say, first, I'm not an extrovert, I'm an introvert. I don't have lots of friends, even my mom knows that. And I really focus more on my studies and work, because I'm determined and I want to have a good future. And au wazazi wangu nataka niwapeleke mahali mbali. With my sister's daughter, she's big now. She's big. She's going to school also, and I can say, hata nishukuliangi kama like a mom or an aunt. It's like I'm a sister to her. Yeah, so it's like that rapport we have. It's like a sister to sister rapport, not a mother to daughter rapport. Yeah.
All right, so let's take a short commercial break. When we come back, we have these amazing conversation with them for a few minutes and just get to know what they have for the other girls out there. Staying on KTN News, and we continue with our conversation earlier right here on Weekend Express. Having a conversation with Viola Kaveza, Ann Kumu, and Valerie Munga. So, Valerie, as we have these conversations, just what is your advice to other teenagers out there? What is your advice to them just not to end up like you?
I advise them that when you get pregnant, doesn't mean it's the end of the world. The sky is not the limit. The limit is up there. So know what you want, be what you want, and accept any challenges coming across you.
Yeah, for me, I'll say having a baby is not a mistake. And we all make mistakes. We are not perfect. And my mistake will be different from your mistake. But as long as you're determined and focused, man, just keep the drill going, man. Yeah, and you'll be there.
You continue to do a great work. And what is your advice to teenage girls and to parents out there? And the society at large.
Society. I would say for the girls, if pregnancy does happen, just know it's not the end of your life, as the girls have said. Focus on what you really wanted. Look for the really good support systems. If you are anywhere that CFK Africa is, please come to our doors. We are ready. We are willing to support you. For the parents, focus on the idea that the fact that education is a really key drive to success for your child. So consider the pregnancy a bump, and then we'll overcome it. For the society as well, understand these girls. Most of them, this situation is not out of choice. And more often than not, what we do is we focus on the girl, and then we forget that there is a man either who took advantage or a boy who's also not stepping up. So let's not just blame her. It took more than one person for this to be. For the government, I would say the biggest request is, let us kindly focus on ensuring that the schools stick to the re-enrollment policy. Our girls' rights to education are fundamental within the Constitution. They are.
And rightfully put, those are just their closing remarks to the society out there, to the girls. It's not the end of the world. To the parents, embrace your children, and to your baby, today is International Children's Day. Pass my regards to her. And ladies and gentlemen, this conversation definitely continues.